the down.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, as some of you in this room know, I have a habit of talking a lot, so I've been constrained significantly, which will be good for you. And I've been asked to provoke, so I will provoke a little bit for our discussion. Nepal is going into a middle-income status. There's going to be challenges. But that means there are also opportunities. And I think we see those opportunities. We see the opportunities in hydropower to provide regular electricity. We see the opportunities and interests that the PVC market is doing in terms of trying to find those companies that can grow, that have the capability to be productive and move beyond that super high import dependency that the country has. We have to move beyond that. So, are we optimistic? Yes. Do we think that the financial sector has room for growth? Yes. And so, when we have our panel discussion, I'd like us to think about a couple of things, and our panelists to think about a couple of things. Is this financial sector growth sustainable? We know in a number of countries that, you can get sustainable financial sector growth for decades, and it's been shown historically. But then we have a lot of issues and constraints. So can we do better than that number? What can we learn from international best practices? And I think in the region, we can learn a lot. There's a number of economies we can learn a lot from, but also there is the experience of India and China and the lessons that we can learn from that. And the final question I hope our panelists will try and grapple with is, what do we need to do to ensure that the growth of that financial services industry is moving forwards rapidly to meet the needs, as every speaker has said, of jobs, of a more equitable path to economic growth. I'm very excited by our little discussion we're going to have right now. So I know preferential order. I will just take Samir first to give his kind of reflections of what has been said right now, and from a kind of your own personal perspective, but also from a BII perspective as well.
So maybe just a few comments to begin with, just about BII. I think most of you probably know who we are. We are the UK government's development finance company. Unlike some of our peers, we're exclusively focused on Africa and Asia. And within Asia, South Asia is by far and away the biggest sort of block. That means that in certain markets, we are actually very active, disproportionately active, I'd say. So Nepal is certainly one of them. You heard that from the ambassador earlier today. And just to put that in perspective, what does this mean? Just sort of certain numbers to keep in mind. Our balance sheet is probably 1/10 the size of the IFC, maybe even a little bit more. We're at about 10 billion compared to something north of probably 100 billion to the IFC. But the portfolio that we have in Nepal is only 1/3 the size of the IFC. So it gives you a sense that in certain markets where we have a very strong affinity for cultural reasons, economic reasons, because we've got great partners to work with in government, are able to actually influence government to take the right sort of steps in their reform agenda, we're ready to go very long. And Nepal is a perfect example of one of those. I think similar to what's been said earlier, our portfolio mimics probably the overall DFI portfolio, where we are strong believers in the role that banks play in supporting real economic growth. And so we've got an approach which Wahid is very much a part of, Sagarika as well in my team, where we start by getting to know a bank through technical assistance, build up the standards of the bank, then start lending our balance sheet, so to speak, through trade finance lines, get to know how they manage themselves, how they manage the systems, and then slowly start moving into other products. But increasingly, I think, given the focus around which has been raised through multiple conversations, that you can't just put money into a bank and have them keep it as liquidity, or not have it going directly into the economy. We're becoming more demanding, which maybe makes us more difficult partners, but we think it's the right thing to do. More demanding around how those banks use our money, around supporting MSMEs, supporting climate, supporting agribusinesses, and I think that's just the beginning of where we're going to be going. So, overall, very excited to be here, very, very happy to be invited, and look forward to continuing discussions.
Thank you very much, Samir. Can I ask Peter his observations, please?
This is my first trip to Nepal, so I'm not going to pretend to be an expert. All I want to say is that we've been in business for more than 50 years, I think quite successfully. But I do want to mention with certain humbleness that it's only because of partnerships that we have been successful. Local partners, international partners, of which many are actually in the room today. And of course, as a development bank, we want impact in all our interventions. But we want to have impact that is scalable. So one of the key things that when we work in a market, is that we want to crowd in other investors, be it development banks, impact financiers, but preferably really the commercial players. And I was also asked to give some examples in other markets. So one of the markets where we've been very active is Sri Lanka. We all know that it's been a country with quite a turbulent history, a long time ago, but also in recent years, very challenging. It's a market where we started a long time ago in the regular banking sector, with focusing on universal banks. And we provided bilateral loans from the start. But we progressed to working on larger syndications, and we managed to reel in, let's say, first-time investors into the country who had never been in the country, and these were commercial investors, Taiwanese banks from Europe, and that is absolutely necessary to achieve the scale. So I think that's something I also wish for Nepal. Another example, more recent, is Ethiopia. Challenging country from a regulatory perspective, probably more so than Nepal even, because the market had been closed for foreign direct investment into the financial sector. USD loans were not permitted. But what we did already 6-7 years ago as FMO, we provided a guarantee facility to a local bank. That was the only product that was permitted in the market. And building on that, together with BII, we engaged very positively with the regulator to ultimately provide our first USD loan very recently to a bank in the sector. And I think that will very much open up the market for future players as well. So this is one way to become active in a market and give confidence to other investors to become active in the same markets. So that's one part of it. The other part is sector initiatives. What I've been hearing a lot in Nepal is that whenever something is implemented, for example, on ENS, the banks are very much concerned about level playing field and whether they will get some kind of negative disadvantage, competitive disadvantage. So we need sector initiatives to ensure, and everyone needs to participate, to ensure that there's level playing field for all the partners. Another reason for having sector initiatives is, of course, to set minimum standards, international best practice standards to entice foreign lenders to become active, and also be very comfortable with that the standards are adhered to, and that they can invest in a country without, let's say, too much reputational risk. Maybe to zoom in on Nepal. I think the huge potential of the market has already been mentioned, especially in the renewable energy space. That's great. It's also a big risk with the ambitions that the country has. I heard an amount of 20 billion. Don't know if that's correct, but it's huge. And it will only be successful if foreign investment comes into the market. And in order for foreign investment to come into the market, foreign investors need to be very comfortable on E&S standards, which is not the case yet for all players in the market. So also there, to tackle this, again, sector initiatives are necessary. So a wider sector approach, which again makes the banks in the sector comfortable that they're acting on a level playing field, and of course makes the international investors happy about the standards that are strived for and hopefully adhered to. Then one more on regulation. So I mentioned that Ethiopia was a country where foreign investment wasn't even possible. So Nepal is way further than that. At the same time, the regulation needs to be there, but it also needs to be predictable. And that's something that I heard from many investors, also meeting clients yesterday and prospects. That is something that is a reason for concern. You can wake up the next morning and be confronted with new regulation, of course with excellent intentions, but it makes it difficult to navigate the market. Yeah, so it needs to be predictable, and it also needs to be enforced, especially on E&S. And I know the NRB has made tremendous progress on implementing regulation and requirements on E&S. But I also understand that it's difficult to enforce it because the knowledge isn't always there. Just the manpower to enforce this regulation needs to be there in order for international investors to see this as being credible. And I know that the IAN, which is really great, are supporting the Bankers Association and also specific FIs to work on technical assistance in the field of E&S. And also what I heard is the IAN has collaborated with a local university to already create a curriculum at university level to get people on board on the topic. So those are things, I think, which are really excellent. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. Perhaps I can, if I don't mind, I'll skip Babacar for a few moments, obviously not forgotten. But I would like to ask Ashok, CEO of Prabhu Bank, for his reflections of where can we go.
Thank you once again, Supatika, and I would like to thank IIN for this opportunity. These DFIs are very young for us, these bilateral DFIs, yeah? Multilateral are there since long time, like IFC, World Bank, and ADB. They are doing very good contributions to our country, and we are very thankful for them also. But in case of these new DFIs, bilateral DFIs, they are very young, and it takes time to understand our environment as well as economic situation as well as other things. That's why we are also new. Yeah, they just entered into the financial sectors, and we are also new to know about their terms and conditions as well as other things. However, I think due to their contributions, we can reach very far. Because as your figures shows us very dreamy figures, yeah. If we are able to reach that figures, that will be very miracle for us and our country. And we definitely go for that figures, but due to the various situations, and as you said, fluctuations on a lot of matters, we have to change frequently our strategy as well as plan. That's why we, as a banks, we have very huge kind of responsibility regarding our economy as well as business sides. You said there is around 18 to 19% growth in past years, but if you see the few years pictures, it is very lower one, only 3 to 4% in both sides. It means in these days we are in few bad times. I would like to say like this one, bad times, yeah. However, we are hopeful, doing better in future, and we definitely get your supports, yeah, and our policy also definitely will be very better for DFIs as well as other international agencies. So I kindly request all of you to invest in our business as well as financial institutions to make our country better and to give our people very prosperous futures.
Ashok, thank you very, very much. I will now move to Santosh, who's from the Nepal Bankers Association Vice President, to give his perception from an industry-wide.
Of course, this growth, what you have shown here in your presentation is sustainable, and we can do better also, but there must be a very strong political commitment and political stability in the country. Since last some years, we are facing some problems in the banking industry due to timely actions and issuance of directives and other policies from the central bank. We are now somehow stable, though we are struggling to manage the NPAs and all in the last quarter. But also we do hope that we can do better in the days to come. And somehow there are some symptoms of the economic stability in the country. We are listening from our government also and from central bank also. Some ratios, some parameters are being better now. So we do hope that there must be some kind of good symptoms coming in the country ahead. I feel so. And I'll take just 2 minutes for sharing experiences in the NBA also, because I'm representative of NBA here. Thank you, IIN, for inviting NBA here as a vice president in this chair. My NBA wants to collaborate with all the DFIs in terms of training and development and other collaborative approach. We are always there for all the DFIs, IIN for the development of this financial sector as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you very, very much. I know we're running out of time, so apologies for that. But I think I can take 2 questions. So if anyone has any questions, can you put your hands up? And I'll try and... Please.
I represent for microfinance sector. When we look with this segment of the population, we are not sure whether the money we give will help them or hurt them. We don't know. But when we look, when we have a gathering, international gathering here, I think when we talk about future growth, maybe looking deeper to our country context, this may be the product for poorer segments of the community, and this may be the product for industry or sector. I think that kind of strategy, if we can think or discuss, that would be really helpful for us. Thank you.
Again, I would like to say that we are keeping quiet. That's the only thing. Otherwise, we are touching each and every sectors of the lending products. Whatever we feel, whatever demand we received, we are putting our money in those sectors. That's why, as a banker, you should tell our people about all of these things. In this time, we need a positive message to be spread out all over the country. That will definitely make our people strong, and they will feel secure, and they will start to do business, new business, innovative business. That is the thing we are looking for in these days.
I think while you can expect the banks to slowly start dipping into non-collateralized lending, I think it will probably come over time from the bottom up. What are we doing about it? I mean, I was talking about us being more demanding around how the banks use our money. One of the things we're doing is actually requiring a minimum amount of non-collateralized lending as part of the total portfolio. And we're ready to provide technical assistance and support and hand-holding so that banks start getting more comfortable with this kind of methodology, because it is fundamentally very different from just saying, I like your house, it now belongs to me, and here, take a little bit of money on the side. It's a very different mindset. So that's how we're approaching it as well.
Thank you, Samir. Peter, would you like to, or Babaka? Either one?
Very briefly, I wanted to touch upon the volatility and liquidity in the market.
Sure.
Because I recognize that. I mean, we've lost transactions. We started working on a transaction when there was a liquidity need. The transaction throughput time takes more than a year, and then a year after, there's no liquidity need anymore. So the transaction is dead. But I think what I also heard is that banks that are willing to take long-term funding from DFIs, they are safe in the periods that there is a liquidity crunch in the market, and there are parties that financed renewable energy transactions, and they were able to still continue to disburse, whereas other players were not, because they were dependent on deposits and short-term funding sources which were depleted. So of course that's the key thing, and that's also the key thing that we as development banks want to achieve, that we are able to finance throughout the cycles and are there in tough times, also in good times, but also in tough times. That's what I wanted to say.
And Babaka, I mean, you've talked a lot about this before in your presentation. Would you like to share any views on either the credit, surplus, deficit, liquid, illiquid, non-collateralized debt, or do you want to even think about the other question, which was about consumer protection over indebtedness, and whether we should be, what kinds of protections should we have when we go down to the lowest 20%?
This is all about information, about risk profiles of borrowers, and this is an area where I think Nepal has can do a lot more. As a non-finance person, when I talk about this, and I want to give an example that strikes people, I say, I know this example is extreme, right? But still, when I go to the US, I have a credit story. I want to buy a car, take my driver's license. I go to a car dealership. Within 1 hour, I can get a car that costs thousands of dollars with zero document provided. They just need a number from me, my social security number. They look it up. They see my credit report, and they make an assessment, and then they'll ask me a few questions. One button, and then I get offers from several banks, actually. They make banks compete for my business, with different rates. And then I walk away with a car within an hour or so. So that shows you how powerful the availability of reliable credit information can be. Now, for individual as well as for businesses, because we know that many of the small businesses that are struggling to get capital, they rely on their own personal assets to provide guarantees, right? So I think it will be very important for the regulators to push through these amendments, and for the market to also be more aware and learn how to use them, and that will help in terms of this collateral issue that's been really hampering access to capital for business, small businesses and household alike. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Unfortunately, we are completely out of time, so it is my great privilege and honor to introduce the Governor of the Reserve Bank, Mahaprasad Adhikaria, to give his closing speech. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Buddhika Samarasinghe. I would like to thank IIN and all organizers for this. With regard to Nepal Rashtra Bank and DFI's priority, it is very much matched. Nepal Rashtra Bank has the policy to channelize financial resources towards productive area, productive sector, towards green sector, towards small and medium enterprises sector. For that, we have the regulation, directed lending like regulation. For example, 15% of the total lending should go towards MSMEs. 15% of the total credit need to go towards agriculture. 10% of the total lending need to go for energy. So whatever DFI has a priority, what I understand, while on lending to our financial institution, the covenants, what I saw, are very much matched, very much consistent with the policy that the central bank here we are focusing. Nepal Rashtra Bank has some more priority where we are trying to have this digitalization of our financial services. Next agenda of the central bank is the green and also with respect to climate risk mitigation. Nepal government has already declared its commitment for the climate risk mitigation. We have commitment in COP28. So for that mitigation, we need huge amount of financing. If you see the numbers, almost 95% of that financing is expected from outside. So from whom we will be getting that? Along with the development financial institution. And we always took you people as our ambassador for the foreign investment, for the foreign partners, to create feelings about Nepal. Nepal is a virgin land. We have not done anything with respect to financing. Okay, as Barbarkar mentioned, there are several ancient traditional practices here, many more innovation that can take place here, which is yet to be done. But being a regulator, on behalf of the government, what I can say is we always encourage private sector. We always encourage innovation. We always try to promote innovation and encourage people and try to create level playing field for all the private sector to work with the government and the central bank. With this, I appreciate and acknowledge once again and express my gratitude for your collaboration with Nepal government, Nepal Rashtra Bank and the financial sector, and to look forward to work in the future. Thank you. Thank you for this opportunity once again.
Talk of the Town.